Can either of you tell us anything about this Auston Matthews situation that is not publicly known at this point? Because, well, like for me,
specific injury? No.
Well, I heard Barube say today, well, he's shooting better, which is a good sign. I'm like, I heard him say that 25 times last year.
Yeah.
And that makes my radar go off. Like, I thought it was a lower body injury.
Shock hit the Toronto Maple Leafs without warning. One name disappeared from the lineup, and everything changed. Panic spread fast inside the organization as the team's captain was suddenly labeled day-to-day. One injury, one decision, one moment that forced Toronto to rethink everything moving forward while uncertainty hovered over every shift that followed. The Toronto Maple Leafs entered a critical stretch of the season when Auston Matthews was ruled out with a lower body injury. The team confirmed he would miss the game against the New Jersey Devils after being listed as day-to-day. The injury occurred during an overtime game against the Detroit Red Wings when Matthews blocked a shot. He briefly left the ice, returned, and later exited again. After that game, his status shifted from uncertain to unavailable. The day-to-day designation created immediate concern inside the organization. Matthews is not only the team's leading scorer, but also the captain. At the time of the injury, he had appeared in 33 games and recorded 15 goals and 12 assists. Toronto had no replacement who could replicate his production or role. The coaching staff adjusted lines and recalled players from the AHL to fill roster spots before the Devils matchup. Toronto proceeded without Matthews and several other regular players. William Nylander was also unavailable. Despite those absences, the Maple Leafs defeated New Jersey 4-0. Joseph Woll stopped 33 shots to earn the shutout. The win stabilized the team in the standings, but the absence of Matthews remained the central issue. The team did not provide a timeline for his return beyond the day-to-day label. The injury added pressure because Matthews had already missed games earlier in the season due to similar lower body issues. This latest setback came at a time when the Leafs were tightly positioned in the Eastern Conference standing. Toronto held a 17-15-6 record, placing them level on points with Columbus. Every game carried weight, and lineup uncertainty increased internal tension. While sidelined, Matthews did not practice with the team. Medical staff continued to evaluate his condition. The Leafs avoided placing him on long-term injured reserve, signaling the injury was not considered severe. Still, the absence forced Toronto to manage games without their top offensive driver. Matthews' role extends beyond scoring. He leads matchups, anchors power plays, and draws defensive attention. His removal altered game planning on both sides of the puck. Opponents adjusted coverage, while Toronto redistributed minutes and responsibilities. The situation placed added strain on depth players and coaching decisions. As the team prepared for the next game, attention stayed fixed on Matthews' status. The uncertainty lingered, the situation remained unresolved, and the pressure did not fade, because the next development would not take long to arrive. The situation shifted quickly after Matthews missed the game against New Jersey. Toronto returned to action against the Winnipeg Jets, and Matthews was back in the lineup. His return followed the day-to-day designation and confirmed that the injury did not require extended absence. The Maple Leafs did not announce any restrictions on his ice time before the game. In addition to the 3 goals, Matthews added 1 assist. His 4-point night followed immediately after missing a game due to the lower body injury. The performance directly impacted the result, as Toronto erased the deficit and secured the win in regulation. The comeback marked the team's 4th win in 5 games. Other players contributed to the rally. Oliver Ekman-Larsson recorded a goal and an assist. Matias Maccelli also posted a goal and an assist. Troy Stecher added a goal as well. Still, Matthews' return defined the outcome. His presence reshaped Winnipeg's defensive coverage and altered the pace of play. The Jets extended their losing streak to 8 games with the loss. Toronto capitalized on defensive breakdowns and sustained pressure late in the game. Matthews' scoring surge came after limited availability in prior days and no practice sessions during his absence. Following the game, Matthews moved closer to the franchise goal record held by Matt Sundin. His career total increased with each goal scored in the comeback. Despite missing time earlier in the season, he remained among the team's leading contributors. The game provided immediate clarity on Matthews' status. He returned from a day-to-day injury and logged a full performance with decisive impact. For Toronto, the outcome confirmed that the injury scare had not sidelined their captain for long. However, the recent absence and prior lower body issues kept attention on how his health would be managed going forward as the schedule continued without pause.
Yeah, good resilience tonight and character coming back, kind of coming back the whole game, But we stuck with it, and I thought guys had good attitude and kept competing and doing good things, and ended up scoring some goals, which we needed.
The Maple Leafs fell behind again and again, yet refused to fade. When the final horn sounded, the scoreboard told one story. The coach told another. Craig Barube stood firm after the win, choosing his words carefully, sending a message that landed hard and changed the conversation heading forward. The Toronto Maple Leafs delivered one of their most turbulent wins of the season with a 6-5 comeback victory against the Winnipeg Jets. The game unfolded with constant momentum swings. Each time, the team responded with a goal. The result marked one of the highest scoring games of the season for the club. Auston Matthews led the charge. The Maple Leafs captain recorded a hat trick and added an assist. His third goal came late in the third period and stood as the game winner. According to the official game recap, Matthews finished the night with 4 points, directly factoring into more than half of Toronto's goals. His performance came after returning to the lineup following a brief injury absence. The game also featured a major goaltending change. Joseph Woll started the game for Toronto, but was pulled after allowing 4 goals. Dennis Hildeby entered in relief and stopped 22 of 23 shots. That change stabilized the game and allowed Toronto to stay within reach as the offense continued to press. Winnipeg contributed heavily to the chaos. Mark Scheifele scored twice and added an assist. Gabriel Velarde and Alexei Afalo also found the net. The Jets held leads at several points and entered the third period still within striking distance. However, Toronto's late push proved decisive. After the game, head coach Craig Barube addressed the media. His tone was firm. He focused on effort, response, and execution rather than mistakes. Good resilience and character coming back tonight, Barube said during his post-game availability. He later added, "I like the guy's attitude. Everyone kept going." Barube referenced how the team stayed engaged despite allowing goals. His comments centered on response rather than breakdown. He did not single out individual errors. Instead, he emphasized collective pushback after each deficit. Toronto improved its recent stretch with the victory, while Winnipeg's losing streak extended. The game ended with celebration on the ice, but the focus quickly shifted to the coach's message, which framed the night as something more than just a comeback win. The message from Craig Barube did not stop at resilience. His remarks also reflected how the Maple Leafs are choosing to play during this stretch of the season. Toronto has leaned into offense, even when games become unstable. Against Winnipeg, that approach was visible from the opening period through the final minutes of regulation. Barube acknowledged the reality of the game's structure. Goals were allowed. Momentum shifted, yet the bench response remained consistent. Players continued to attack. The coach did not frame the win around clean execution. Instead, he described persistence through repeated setbacks. His comments aligned with the numbers on the scoreboard rather than any single moment. Dennis Hildeby's role became more pronounced as the game progressed. After replacing Woll, he faced consistent pressure but allowed only 1 goal. His save percentage for the night finished above .950. The stabilization in net coincided with Toronto's ability to push forward without conceding another lead. Barube's comments did not reference external criticism directly. He spoke through the lens of performance. His emphasis remained on how the team reacted after being tested repeatedly. The coach's language centered on attitude, pushback, and staying engaged. These were observable elements reflected in the flow of the game. The win also came during a period of increased scrutiny around Toronto's consistency. High-scoring games have defined recent results. Against Winnipeg, that pattern continued. The Maple Leafs scored 6 goals for the second time in a week. Over their last 5 games, their goal total reached 25, confirming the offensive surge. Winnipeg's situation added context. The Jets entered the game on a losing streak that extended further with this result. Despite strong individual performances, they were unable to hold multiple leads. Toronto capitalized on each opening created. As the media session concluded, Barube's remarks framed the night around response rather than control. The scoreboard confirmed the comeback. The quotes confirmed the stance. The result stood, but the message carried beyond the final horn.
Circle back on Rasmus Andersson. Is the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know the Leafs tried to trade for Andersson last year at the deadline. And why I mentioned Toronto is that my understanding is that the Leafs would be one of those teams that perhaps Andersson would consider extending with if, in fact, a trade would work out between those two teams.
Yeah, and look, the Toronto Maple Leafs right now are in a bit of a predicament. Of course, they would have interest and continued interest in Rasmus Andersson.
Toronto Maple Leafs are quietly active again, and the focus has narrowed. Injuries have changed priorities. Familiar names are back on internal lists. Calgary's situation is being watched closely. No announcement has been made, but multiple teams are circling, and Toronto's involvement has added new pressure to a market that is already tightening fast. Rasmus Andersson has remained one of the most discussed defensemen in NHL trade conversations since last summer. The Calgary Flames blue liner is entering the final year of his contract and has not committed to an extension. That contract status has placed him under constant evaluation as Calgary continues to assess its direction this season. Multiple league reports have stated that if the Flames remain outside the playoff picture, moving Andersson becomes a realistic option rather than risking his departure without return. Interest in Andersson has not been limited to one team. Despite that attention, no transaction has progressed to an advanced stage. Insiders have consistently described discussions as exploratory rather than final. The absence of traction has not eliminated interest. Instead, it has shifted activity behind the scenes. Toronto's involvement has drawn particular focus. According to David Pagnotta, speaking on the Hello Hockey podcast on December 27th, the Maple Leafs are among the teams that have kicked the tires on Andersson. Pagnotta stated, "I still think he's getting moved. We know the usual Dallas and Vegas suspects. We know Toronto's kicked the tires. I could see LA getting back into that discussion." The comment reinforced the idea that Toronto's attention has not faded, even without immediate progress. Toronto's renewed interest aligns with internal circumstances. The Maple Leafs have faced continued pressure on their blue line due to injuries. Chris Tanev was recently ruled out for a significant period with a groin injury. His absence has reduced defensive stability and increased the workload on remaining defenders. Reuters reported that Tanev missed Toronto's most recent game with no clear timeline provided for his return. That development has intensified scrutiny on Toronto's defensive depth. Andersson's profile fits the category Toronto has been monitoring. This season, he has recorded 25 points in 39 games, including 7 goals and 18 assists. He averages over 24 minutes of ice time per game and has contributed 71 blocked shots and 21 hits. Over his NHL career, Andersson has accumulated 256 points in 575 games. His usage reflects consistent deployment against top competition, a factor teams weigh heavily when evaluating potential acquisitions. Market conditions around Rasmus Andersson have remained controlled rather than aggressive. Reports have indicated that Calgary has not rushed the process and has continued to gather information across the league. The Flames have acknowledged interest, but have not signaled urgency. That posture has kept discussions measured and prevented rapid escalation despite ongoing speculation. Several insiders have pointed to timing as a key factor. Toronto previously explored Andersson at last year's trade deadline, but a deal did not materialize. Pierre LeBrun later reported that the Maple Leafs have since circled back on Andersson as the pool of available top 4 defensemen has narrowed. Following the movement of other high-end defensemen across the league, teams seeking similar profiles have limited alternatives. That contraction has raised Andersson's visibility. Calgary's position remains tied to its broader competitive outlook. The Flames have spent much of the season outside the playoff picture. As that trend continues, league observers have increasingly framed Andersson as one of the most valuable assets Calgary could move. His age, production, and role elevate his market standing compared to short-term depth options. Calgary has not publicly confirmed trade plans, but multiple reports have noted that front office evaluation is ongoing. Toronto's patience has also been documented. Drager explained that Toronto is monitoring the market while waiting for additional sellers to emerge. With limited supply, teams have shown caution rather than overcommit early. Injury developments have kept the situation fluid. Chris Tanev's absence has placed increased responsibility on Toronto's remaining defensemen. That reality has not been framed as a trigger for immediate action, but it has reinforced the rationale behind continued engagement. Toronto's front office has acknowledged the need for for improvement and has maintained communication lines rather than stepping away. At this stage, no formal agreement exists. No finalized framework has been reported. What has been confirmed is sustained interest, repeated evaluation, and continued dialogue. As league insiders have emphasized, the absence of movement does not reflect inactivity. It reflects positioning, timing, and leverage still being tested.
Well, he's coming on a trip, so that's a good sign, but lower body right now. We'll see how he is tomorrow.
The change came without warning. It happened just before puck drop. One of Toronto's top scorers was suddenly not on the ice. The Maple Leafs had already prepared their lines. Then everything shifted. William Nylander was scratched late with a lower body injury. Within minutes, Craig Barube was forced to rebuild the lineup, and the ripple effects started immediately. The Toronto Maple Leafs made a late lineup change after forward William Nylander was ruled out with a lower body injury. The decision came shortly before puck drop. Nylander was initially expected to play. The team later confirmed that he was scratched following a final evaluation. The injury was classified as day-to-day, with no additional medical details released. Head coach Craig Barube addressed the situation after the lineup adjustment. He confirmed the status and timing of the decision. "He's day-to-day," Barube said. The statement offered no timetable for Nylander's return. The team did not indicate when the injury occurred or whether it happened during a previous game or practice. The late scratch forced immediate changes. Toronto had already prepared its lines before the decision. Once Nylander was ruled out, the coaching staff had limited time to reorganize the forward group. Players originally assigned to depth roles were moved into larger responsibility. Line combinations were altered minutes before the opening face-off. Late scratches are uncommon in the NHL unless a player is deemed unfit during final checks. Nylander had taken part in earlier preparations before being removed from the lineup. Because the decision came so close to game time, the Maple Leafs did not make a roster recall. Instead, they adjusted internally, reshaping the lineup already dressed for the game. Nylander's absence carried weight. He is a regular top six forward and a consistent contributor to Toronto's offense. He also plays a key role on the power play. With him unavailable, the coaching staff modified special teams unit. Positions were reassigned. Ice time projections changed across multiple lines. Barube kept his public comments brief. He did not describe the severity of the injury. He did not confirm how many games Nylander could miss. The day-to-day label allows flexibility, but it also creates uncertainty for upcoming games. Each day requires a new evaluation, and lineup planning remains unsettled until clearance is given. The sudden change disrupted established chemistry. Nylander has spent significant time with Toronto's primary scoring forwards. Removing him required new combinations without extended practice time. Adjustments were made in real time, under game conditions, as players adapted to new roles with little notice. The situation placed immediate focus on how the Maple Leafs would respond without one of their top offensive pieces, and how long this unexpected shakeup would last. Ice time distribution shifted quickly. Forwards moved into expanded roles. Others saw reduced minutes. The coaching staff monitored performance closely as new combinations were tested under live conditions. These changes affected matchups and altered how Toronto approached offensive zone entries. Barube did not frame the decision as precautionary or long-term. His comments remained limited to the injury designation. "We'll see how he responds," he said. No further clarification was provided. The lack of detail left the situation open-ended, keeping attention on the team's next update. Toronto continues to manage player health closely during a compressed schedule. The absence of a clear return date for Nylander complicates planning. Practice lines may change from day to day. Game day decisions remain flexible until medical clearance is confirmed. Nylander's role extends beyond scoring. He is a frequent puck carrier and a regular option during transition play. Removing him from the lineup affects zone exits and controlled entries. These elements are typically assigned to experienced forwards, increasing the burden on remaining players. The Maple Leafs did not indicate whether Nylander would travel with the team if games continued on the road. That detail often signals progress, but no confirmation was provided. The team maintained its standard injury protocol, releasing only the designation and leaving further updates to future availability reports. Barube's approach reflected standard league practice. Late scratches are handled quickly. Lines are redrawn. Players are informed. Once the puck drops, changes are locked in. The process leaves little room for gradual adjustment, placing emphasis on readiness and adaptability. As long as Nylander remains sidelined, Toronto's lineup remains fluid. Each game requires fresh evaluation. Roles may continue to shift. Special teams may